my name is Emma, and in this video I'm going to talk to you all about how sewing has completely changed my life for the better and encourage you to do more of it if it already is your hobby, and if it's not your hobby yet, I'm going to encourage you to take it up as a hobby. And what better time is there than January for starting something new? This is my sewing room and we're just having a little look around first, then we're going to pack my bag and I will take you off to my studio where I'm having a bit of a sort out. I love to start the year with sorting out my projects, tidying up my threads and that sort of thing. So whilst we're chatting about what a great hobby sewing is, that's what I'm going to be doing. Later in the video I'm also going to work a little bit on my Happy Memories quilt, so you'll see a little glimpse of that as well. So if you're new here, you might not be familiar with the types of sewing that I love to do. So I mainly do a lot of patchwork and embroidery. I love hand sewing, hand quilting, and really my love of sewing comes from making small things with lots of detail in them. So I like making sewing cases, mini quilts, that sort of thing, anything that I can embellish with embroidery. So I love mixing it up like that. I do sometimes make larger quilts, but mostly it's the small things that I love to make. So the first way in which sewing has really changed my life is that it is now my job, and I feel really lucky and so grateful to be able to say that. Before sewing was my job, I was a primary school teacher and I loved that job. I loved working with children. When I became a stay-at-home mum, I started to share my crafts online and that grew. It turned into people asking me to make a pattern for my designs, and that's what started my business. And today I have this small studio in which I can teach classes from. I have my YouTube channel and I sell my patterns and kits, and I'm really grateful for that. It really has changed my life. Sewing is my passion and it is so lovely to be able to share that with all of you. Now, changing your hobby into a job, that isn't for everybody, and I really do understand that, because there are some aspects of this that do feel like work, like the computer side to things and the admin and that sort of thing, and that isn't for everybody. But if you have a passion, if there's something that you want to share with the world, my advice would be to absolutely go for it, because you just never know what can happen. Right now I'm sorting out my embroidery threads. They got a bit jumbled up and I just like to keep them in this wooden box. I try and organise them by colour and I keep them in the skein as much as possible. I don't have time to wind them onto bobbins, and I think it really stores them well to keep them in the skein. It keeps the threads relaxed, they're not tightly wound around anything, so it makes them really easy to use. Having said that though, the Saju threads that I have come wound on cards, but they're absolutely fine like that. And in the middle of this container I've got my crewel wool, and it's Appleton's crewel wool, most of this is anyway, and there are so many lovely colours of it and it's really nice to work with. I have rather a lot because most of them are left over from kits that I did many years ago, so I really need to use them a bit more because I do have a lovely selection of colours there. The next way in which sewing has really changed my life is that it has put me in touch with my creative side and made me more creative in a way. It has ignited something inside me, sparked my creativity, and it just fills me up with lots of ideas, and I'm always thinking of the next thing that I want to make. It might be that you are a creative person, but perhaps creativity has had to take a back seat because of a busy life, work, family, that sort of thing. It's really easy for your creativity to be put on the back burner because you have priorities, things that you have to do. But I really would encourage you to just try to fit in even only 5 minutes a day, just a little bit of stitching in a quiet moment if you can, right at the end of the day, or maybe right at the beginning of the day. I quite like getting up early and just working on things before the rest of the house is awake. And I really have found that by squeezing it in here and there, it really has sparked my creativity, and I think it would do that for you too. And it's also really nice being part of the online community and seeing what other people are creating. There is so much inspiration out there. So if you're maybe in a bit of a rut where you've lost your sojo and you don't know where to start, then just have a little browse on Instagram or here on YouTube, and it won't be long before I'm sure you'll see something that you want to make. So I really think that starting a hobby like sewing, or maybe trying to do a bit more of it this year, can be really beneficial and really help you become even more creative, or at least put you in touch with your creative side even more. So I'd just like to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Skillshare. Now last year, towards the end of last year, I decided I wanted to try a new skill every month. And this is really a great way to focus on creativity as a practice, to learn a new craft every month, because I just absolutely love learning new things. Skillshare is the ideal tool for this because it's really accessible. You don't have to leave your home. You can watch the videos from the comfort of your home and get learning straight away. The classes are really high quality. They are taught by industry professionals, and you can really learn so much in a short space of time because they are skill building. Also, what I love about Skillshare is the vast range of topics of things that you can learn. So there are classes on illustration, watercolours, knitting, embroidery. And if you're new to sewing, there is an excellent class by Bernadette Banner on the basics of hand sewing. So you can really go from beginner to intermediate in a short space of time. I'm really interested in taking this class by Eva on micro crochet. I love crochet, I've dabbled in it, but this month I want to have a go at micro crochet and make these beautiful flowers, something I've never tried before. Skillshare is the largest online learning platform, and it's ideal for creatives like you and me. There's a link in the description box below, and the first 500 people to use my link will get 1 month access to Skillshare for free. So thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. The next way in which sewing has completely changed my life is that it has helped me to really slow down. Now, there is a trend online for making things as fast as possible, for seeing how many things you can make in a year. There's a trend like that for every kind of hobby online. How many books can you read in a year? And we're always striving for more and more and more. But when I took up sewing and started doing it really more seriously in the last few years, I kind of went the opposite way and I slowed right down. And instead of chasing that finish all the time and wanting to get through a project, to get to the end, to get it done, to have the finished item and then move on to the next one, I just love the process so much. And I really savour that. I enjoy every stitch and I'm just not in a rush. I used to feel really frustrated with my sewing and I just wanted to get it done. But now I really try and enjoy each step. So with making a patchwork quilt, for instance, I used to really rush through the cutting part because I just didn't enjoy it. But now I see it differently. I see the whole process and the value in each part of it. And you can really go into quite a meditative state with certain aspects of sewing. So hand sewing is a great one for that, where you just repeat the same stitch over and over again, perhaps for English paper piecing or hand quilting, and you lose yourself in that. But then there's the other type of meditative stitching, for example, if you're working on an embroidery and you're thinking about the colours and the stitches and the shapes and the design, and you lose yourself in those choices that you make where you're really thinking about what you're doing. And I have a video on this actually, mindful and mindlessness, and it's the difference between the two, and you really do get both from sewing. So yeah, that is a way in which sewing has completely changed me. It stopped me from being in a rush, and I now enjoy each and every step. So the fabrics that I'm looking through now are from an amazing company called Elmhirst Fabrics, and I've bought from them in the past, and I'm using a lot of the fabrics I've bought from there in my Happy Memories quilt, which you'll see in a moment. But the ones that I'm showing you here are a scrap pack that Steph from Elmhirst Fabrics very kindly gifted to me, and it was just so kind of her to do that, and absolutely incredible. There is so much in here. I wanted to show you all of them, but there is so much in here I couldn't. It was going to take far too long, but I'm trying to show you as much as I can. What's lovely about these fabrics is they're so seasonal. You can see the autumnal prints, then the more winter prints like this one with the rose hips, and there are spring prints, and there's just, they're just lovely. They're really unique, something really different about them, and they're designed by a lady called Daniela Drescher. So I'll leave a link to Elmhirst Fabrics below, because if you're looking for lovely fabrics like this with fairies on and wildlife and flowers and really seasonal prints, then do check them out. Follow them on Instagram so that you'll know when they have new things out. I mean, look at that one. It's just perfect for winter. So in this scrap pack, which is just amazing, I mean, we can't really call it scraps, can we? They are just absolutely beautiful little pieces. There are some smaller pieces, and I'm thinking about making something really seasonal with those anyway. And then the larger pieces I'm putting to one side to put into my Happy Memories quilt. But I don't know what to make with the smaller ones. Should I make something with hexagons, or should I make maybe some sort of seasonal slow stitching book, something like that, I'm thinking, because I don't want to cut them up too much. They're just so precious. I love them. So massive thank you to Elmhirst Fabrics, and definitely check them out because you won't be disappointed. They are wonderful. So this is my Happy Memories quilt. It's a quilt as you go quilt with hexagons, and on the front side of it I've mixed vintage embroideries with my own embroideries, pieced blocks, applique blocks, and then some that are just fabrics. And on the back I'm using Liberty, so you get two quilts in one. And I've got other videos about this quilt, so if you haven't seen it before, I'll leave links in the description box, and then you can go and see all the videos I have about how to make it and how I'm doing it. But this quilt has really changed my life, and it's not even very big because I haven't been able to work on it as much as I'd like to. But if you want to start something new this year, then this, I think, is the perfect project for that. It's just such a lovely thing to work on. I'm using it a bit like a diary, so when I've been somewhere, I've made a block to represent that. And just in the background to the left, you can see the embroidery, the pink lily of the valleys. Well, they are there to remind me that I grew pink lily of the valley in my garden, and that was really special for me, something that I've been trying to do for years. So it is a bit of a quilted diary, if you like, and I never want this project to end. So it has so much personal meaning to it. So if you're thinking about maybe starting to put more sewing into your life this year, or to start sewing from scratch, I recommend a project like this. It's so nice to work on, and it really has so much personal meaning, and you can make it personal to you. sometimes I know I have felt guilty for taking that bit of time for myself, but sewing really is like a little bit of self-care. And we need to remember, don't we, that if we don't look after ourselves, we can't look after others. So in order for me to be there for my family and to be the best mother and wife, sister, daughter that I can be, I need to look after myself. And so this quilt really is self-care for me. It's so good for mental health. When I'm feeling a bit down, and we all have down days, picking up a project like this and working on it really does make a big difference, even if I've only worked on it for 10 minutes. So I stitched this block on and I didn't even get all the way around it, but I automatically felt better. And it was just the feeling of the quilt in my hands and looking at these beautiful fabrics. There's just something about it that just was comforting to me, uplifting. So we can all do with a bit of that in our lives, can't we? So I highly recommend that. It's definitely been so positive for my mental health and has changed my life in that way, and I'm sure it would improve anyone's, so I really do recommend it. So I chose this piece of fabric with the sewing machine on from the pack that Elmhirst Fabrics sent to me to make a little block to remind me of the kindness of Steph of sending me these fabrics. This block will also remind me of this video because I made it for this video, and it says love on the sewing machine, and so it will also remind me of the subject of this video, which is my passion for sewing and why I think you should do it either more or you should start, which is what this video is about. It will bring you joy. It brings me a lot of joy, and in different ways. So a project like this is just for myself. I'm working on it. It's positive for my mental health. It just brings me a lot of happiness and joy, and it is just for the sake of it. I don't need this quilt on my bed or anything like that, because it's not something that I need. It is just making for the pure joy of it, and they're the projects that I like best. I know some people like making things that have a purpose, but for me it's projects just for the sheer joy of it. That's what I like to make. Another way in which sewing can bring you so much joy and change your life is by making things for other people as well. Now this can be a bit of a tricky subject because not all people receive handmade gifts in the same way. Some people really do appreciate them, while others don't. Unfortunately, some people sometimes think that if you've made them a gift, it's cost you less and it's a bit of a cheaper way of giving them a gift, when in reality making a handmade gift for someone costs more. And that might be that the materials cost more, but also it costs your time. And what I find when I'm making a gift for someone is that I'm thinking about that person all throughout the process of making the object. I'm thinking, will they like this? Are they going to like that? I'm just always thinking about that person. So a lot goes into a handmade gift. And when you know the right person who is going to appreciate it, it really can bring so much joy. So there are lots of different ways in which sewing will change your life. It will bring you joy and happiness when you make things for yourself and when you make them for the right recipient. So another reason why I think you should take up sewing as a hobby, or do some more of it if you already do love it, is that sewing really doesn't have to be complicated at all, and when you really break it down, it's actually quite simple. If you just master a few basic hand stitching techniques like a running stitch, a back stitch, an applique stitch like I'm doing here, a whip stitch, with just a few stitches you can really create something beautiful. Nothing has to be complicated about this. Pick a simple shape that you really like. I am drawn to hexagons and use them a lot, but perhaps you really like squares. There is something so beautiful about simplicity, I think. there isn't a need to overcomplicate it. Cut some squares out that are the same size and stitch them together, and before you know it, you've got something really, really beautiful. Pick fabrics that really speak to you and make your heart sing, and you'll create something that has so much special meaning to it and is really, really personal. So sewing doesn't have to be complicated. It's easy to think that it is, and we need all of these different tools and notions and techniques, but when we really think about it, it is actually quite simple, and it's the simplicity of it that makes it really, really beautiful. So I'm just packing away my Happy Memories quilt now. I've decided I had blocks all over the place, so I'm going to keep them and the fabric that I'm using in this little case. So hopefully I'll be a bit better organised, because I really do think having your projects organised in a little box makes it so much easier to pick them up and put them down and work on them when you want to. So I hope you've decided to do a bit more sewing or to take it up as a hobby. Do let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you really soon in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.